Hey everybody, it's Joe the 3D printing professor, and I wanted to make this video to respond to some comments that people are making when they see the minis from my Print a Quest Kickstarter. Now, Print a Quest is my latest campaign on Kickstarter to make a 3D printable, miniatures heavy board game, and you can check it out. It will be ending tomorrow. However, due to late pledges, you will still be able to back it until the end of the month. I hope that you'll check it out. But a lot of people, when they see prints of these minis, and especially some prints that weren't very good, will say something along the lines of, well, that's just the best that you can expect from FDM 3D printing. Everybody knows that if you want to print minis, you have to print them in resin. And that statement is, okay, have you ever talked to somebody who says something like, anime sucks? And when you try to dig into it a little bit to find out why they think that, you discover that they watched 3 episodes of Naruto and decided that all anime was that and that it sucks and that they don't want to watch any more anime. And you have to bite your tongue to not correct their pronunciation and to explain to them that it's not all like that. Anime is a medium and it has a wide array of things and they could check out all kinds of things. That's what these people who say that you can't 3D print minis on FDM 3D printers sound like to me. See, the problem isn't minis, and the problem isn't the FDM 3D printing process. The problem is designers who do not think about the process that they are designing for. And they go based purely off of what they see on social media. On social media, people will post pictures of these amazing prints and they will go, well, okay, obviously 3D printing, these guys can make anything happen. So I'm just gonna throw my models out. I will pose them as dramatically as I want to do. I will put details in that are so small that you wouldn't be able to see them with a microscope. And they will just, these 3D printing people, they will just make it happen. And the 3D printing people who make it happen are kind of contributing to the problem, because if these designers just thought a little bit about the process that they were designing for, they would be able to make things that not only might print on other 3D printing processes, but would actually print more successfully in resin. Yes, resin 3D printing can't do everything, and it's not 100% successful. People just don't show the failures in resin prints as often on social media and stuff like that, and they end up showing, here's how I overcame these problems. I get it. It's great to overcome these problems, but wouldn't it be better if they weren't problems to begin with? Every manufacturing process has its limitations, and for decades, designers have had to work within the constraints of those limitations in order to produce what they want to do. For instance, have you looked at a bucket of army men? Notice that in army men, a bucket of army men, those toys, they don't have dramatic, picturesque poses. They have these flat poses that kind of just all fit on one plane. Well, that's because they're injection molded so that they can make a lot of them. And injection molding has a mold cut out of a piece of metal and a mold cut out of another piece of metal. They smash that metal together and they inject the plastic into it. But that process means that if there's any undercuts, if there's any part that the mold has to go around, when the mold comes apart, the part's not going to fall out. And so that would be a failure of design. So what do? They flatten the pose and they make it so that the army man, instead of having a pose where his arm would have to have a part around it, they move the arm up so that he's kind of doing this weird pose, but it works for the process. Now, FDM and SLA 3D printing has the limitations that it's built layer by layer and it's built in the air. So if you have a part that is overhanging, that is hanging downwards in your design, that part is going to need to have something brought up to meet it. We call that supports. And the thing about supports is, especially in most cheaper printers and the SLA process, it's made out of the same material that your part is made out of. So here we hit this strange sort of catch-22, because you want your supports to break away. So you don't want them to hold on to the part so much that you can't take them off after the print is finished. However, If you have a part that is completely supported by supports until it reaches a point where it tucks into and touches the rest of the part, for that entire process, you want it to be supported by the supports. The same supports that you want it to not be so stuck to that it can't be torn off later. Do you see the problem here? If you make parts that overhang and have to be printed entirely on supports, we are trying to build a scaffold that is designed to fall off later, but still be sturdy enough to hold it at the time. And yes, we've managed to do that to a certain degree. One thing that I've seen before is a mini has this absolutely dramatic pose where the character has their hand pointed downward. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes 5 fingers pointed in such a way that they all have to print on the supports. And I've seen people successfully make this work. But what if they took that hand and put those fingers together? Sure, it's not as dramatic and fancy, but that will print better than that. And what if they took that hand and they tucked it into the body? Again, it's not as fancy or dramatic a pose, but it will ensure that that part is locked onto something before it goes up, and we don't have to have 5 fingers supported by nothing until they go all the way up the arm and join back into the body. It's a simple design choice that could make the print more successful more often. Never mind the fact that an individual finger, when scaled to 28mm scale, needs to be like fattened up so that there's enough of it there that the process can even see it. I mean, FDM, yeah, that one with a 0.4mm nozzle probably isn't even going to print the finger, but some SLA printers don't even have the resolution to do that. The ones coming out now are much, much better, but come on, this is better than that. That's all I'm saying. If you can design your minis with the layer by layer nature of 3D printing in mind, they will be more successful, not just on FDM printing, but also on resin. And for PrintaQuest, that is absolutely what I've done. All of my minis print without supports necessary. All of my minis print successfully on FDM 3D printers. Even garbage FDM 3D printers. I mean, sure, I've shown you guys prints that I've done on my high-end 3D printers, and they look great. But what about if I pull out my old Ender 3, this slow piece of garbage, and try and throw a mini print at them? Well, that's what I've been showing you this whole time. These prints were made on the Adventure 3 3D printer, and they actually look really good. I don't know if I would throw these in a box and put these out as representative of a product, but they are good enough that I would absolutely play with them. You can tell what they are, the details are there, because I designed it so that the details would work. But hey, what if an Adventure 3 is still too high-end for you? Well, what about $100 arm-mounted Easy 3 K7? Did that one manage to print these minis? Yes! Yes, they turned out, okay, not great, but hey, at least the hinge on the chest worked, and I've got a functional mimic that came off of this printer. The point that I'm trying to make with this video is that minis aren't necessarily the problem. There is nothing inherent in the idea of a small character that makes it so it could not be printed with this sort of printing process. The problem isn't minis. The problem is small designs with high overhangs and small details that 3D printers can't represent because they have a certain resolution. That could be true in any type of 3D print. That could be true in any sort of design that people do. Minis are not the problem. The problem is designers who don't think about the process when they're designing. And if you would like to see just what FDM 3D printing can do with minis, then check out PrintaQuest, a whole set of minis and terrain that you can build and make adventures on. I'm really proud of the work that I'm doing on it, and I hope that you will support me on this Kickstarter. Well, that's it for this video. I want to thank you very much for watching, and I want to remind you that you are a child of a loving Heavenly Father. He cares about you. You're special. You're special to Him, so you're special to me. So please take care of yourself, and find somebody else to take care of too. We all need each other. I'll see you next time.